Good morning, West USA. Welcome to our post-Easter edition of our podcast. Appreciate everybody joining us today. We got a little sneak peek of what we got coming up today. Pretty excited about today. Of course, I didn't finish this slide, so
There'll be a guest.
we do have a guest today. All right, of course, we got Todd here to give us a hopefully I uploaded the right.
Doing these on Monday morning is always a gamble.
Yeah. Todd's here to give us a look at the numbers. Matt Baker with the Bookspan Baker team going to give us our mortgage minute. And I think I'm going to be doing a 3-pack on 3 things that you should do before you send an offer to the listing agent. And I know who our guest is. Our guest is Cindy Dillard. She is one of the most amazing accountants and tax strategists out there. And she's my tax strategist. So we're going to jump in and talk about things like PLLCs and tips for filing our taxes. And learned something new to this weekend. I don't know whether you guys know this, but Nick has a second job. And so over the holiday, I saw some pictures of him. He moonlights as the Easter Bunny.
Okay.
So
I'm still curious. Where was that going with it? I had no idea.
Those little bunny ears and fits into a onesie. Looks real cute.
I do. I am.
All right. As always, if you got any comments or questions, please feel free to email us at podcast@westusa.com. Let's jump into the announcements. If you've never attended one of our new agent orientations, we have that coming up today at 10:30. It is not too late to RSVP. Like always, all of our events you can be found on our calendar. Just go to your dashboard, and not too late to get signed up, and we'll send you the slide deck and you can follow along. All right, couple CE classes we got coming up this week. Today from 1 to 4.
You keep talking.
Okay, from 1 to 4. This is going to be at the Mesa office, 3 hours of agency law. All right, and then we've got a Section 8 housing class coming up. I probably should attend this. I took out my first Section 8 housing application for one of my rentals the other day. It's been a while.
Timing.
Yeah, so that is tomorrow from 10 to 1 p.m. at the Scottsdale office. All right, so we have a Elevate Your Game and Stay Ahead of the Curve exclusive workshop coming up on Tuesday from 1 to 2:30. That is going to be at the Scottsdale office as well. In addition, this is going to be on Zoom. All right, so we have our surprise office meeting coming up Tuesday, tomorrow. Busy day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm going to take the day off and just travel around to all the different offices and go to all of these events.
I didn't see any food though, buddy.
Oh, I'm not taking the day off. I'm just going to stay close to the kitchen. All right, tomorrow from 10 to 12, the surprise office meeting. Dwayne Faust is going to stop by, and Michael's going to stop by as well, go over the buyer broker agreement. And Todd's got a CE class virtual coming up this Wednesday, 3 hours of contract law. And we have our buyer broker boot camp. That is going on at the North Phoenix office this Friday from 10 to 11. And look at that. Kyle Faust is going to make a guest appearance.
Is he the guest on today?
No,
No, you
he's
just
not
said
on
that.
the
That's
guest.
right.
We just
I
have
just saw guest,
Our
so-
guest, his name is actually Guest. That's
you
the
go.
name.
Guest.
All right. All right, Todd, take it away.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we're going over the Greater Phoenix Metropolitan Housing Statistics for the week ending today. And let's get right into those numbers. Here we go. 66 days closed on market
We
this past
changed
week.
the keypad this weekend,
we
so
did.
we moved all the keys around just to confuse you.
Thanks, Mike.
No, we didn't.
Here, should we start this over?
Yeah, we're gonna start from the beginning. Hey, everybody.
66 days closed on market, a 2.72 month supply. Actually, you know what? That's a good point because we do record this separately, so I'm going to do this. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we're going over the Greater Phoenix Metropolitan Housing Statistics for the week ending April 1st. Let's see what we got. 66 days closed on market this past week, a 2.72 month supply. Absorption rate is at 36.74. Average list price at $850,000. Average sale price at $601,000. And our list price to sell price this past week at $97.88. Inventory is doing well, up again 1.6. We're at 17,922 active non-distressed properties. We're sitting at pending at 4,342, and our closed units for last month, though obviously we haven't cleaned up and washed all these numbers yet, 5,948. Looking at new listings taken this past week, 2,261. Nice job. 97.3 is our days on market for active and 65.9 for closed. Taking a look at our price range in the lower left-hand section today. Again, this is we highlight in red all the ones that go down since last week's reporting period, so it's easy just to see which ones are negative and which ones are positive. But this breaks down each of the price ranges all the way up to $5 million, but it does give us a better look at the $1 million and up market. So we get to see the units in each of those categories, days on market, percentage of the total inventory, and the change week over week. Way over on the left-hand side, we have the total inventory, similar to what we used to do a long time ago, meaning prior to the first of the year. But what we did is this category, instead of being under 500 and then 500 to $1 million, it's now 0 to 600,000 and then 600,000 to $1 million. And again, so if you take a look at these numbers, 63, we're trying to stay above basically 63% for the 0 to 600,000. So anytime we see it go down, that's not a good, below that, it's not a good sign. 600 to $1 million properties, again, somewhere just above 21 is really where we like to see it. But again, and then the final number is $1 million plus down there on the lower left-hand side, which is at 16.09% of the entire MLS inventory. This, Mike, used to only be 9%.
Wow.
So it's up significantly in comparison. So taking a look at the spreadsheet week over week, in the very center you have 2022 same week 2 years ago. Then to the left of that you have last year's numbers, and then two week over weeks in a row. So 2261 was obviously not as good as 2274. However, it's still really, really good in comparison. Slide your eyes to the right. Why is it really, really good? Because last year we only did 1,683 this week. So this is a good sign. What are these numbers indicating? These numbers are indicating the seller engagement. So you have greater seller engagement when more people put their houses on the market. That kind of should just make sense. So 2 years ago, we were at 2,090. We're even exceeding this past week those numbers. We did increase in a little bit in the pending number as well. But the active inventory is 17,922. That's 815 are coming soon. 13,716 are single-family non-distressed. 2,665 builder properties, new home construction, and 17,845 non-distressed properties. Taking a look at pending is at 4,342. Many of you maybe remember we were having a conversation about a year ago where this number was close to 2,000. So way over on the left-hand side, don't forget the rules of thumb, 5,500. If we're getting 2,400 units, new listings each week, and we have pending, meaning people going under contract, averaging about 5,500 at any particular point of the month, that means we're in an exceptionally stable real estate market in comparison from historical values. So 4,342, that's good. It actually was the same identical number last week, but though if you look at the numbers below it, you'll see that they just total differently, but they end up at the same. So 4,300, that's good. Last year we were only at 4,301, so again, that's a good push. But 2 years ago, there we were, 5,100, 5,200. That's what we need. We need that kind of people in the marketplace, providing we have 2,400 new listings each week. So month to date, closed numbers for the month of March so far, 5,948. Of course, all the numbers aren't in yet. We still have reporting precincts, just a joke. But the thing is that we were at 6,133 last year. That's 3% difference. If you slide your eyes down, if you slide your eyes to the right, those green numbers show each month so far, January, February. We were up about 1% in closings each month. So, just lost my...
Yeah.
There we go. Testing. Okay. Somehow we're going to do this. This is actually pretty funny. So 5,948, that's not bad. We're hoping that it's going to go over 6,000 by the end of the month, but it may not. If it doesn't, that's okay. It's just one of those things that it is what it is. So we come down to month supply. Month supply is at 2.72. That is actually a pretty good number. We're supposed to be between 2.5% and 3%. Last week we were at 2.32. Last year, look at that, 1.89%. we, we were struggling. 0.59 back 2 years ago. Everything we were putting into the MLS was getting eaten up. So at 2.72, 2.5 to 3%, this is absolutely our sweet spot. Looking at the median sale price, which is the bottom number here, is 454,099. That's quite a bit higher than last week, but we really don't look week over week, though I provide it. We're really looking month over month. Last month we were at 519.9. The month before, 419.9. The month before that, we were at 447,000. So again, you can see that people are saying, the prices are going up dramatically. Yes, they're increasing. However, if we're watching the under $500,000, under $600,000 market, and that continues to be stable or increase, that means workforce housing. That means first-time home buyers. That means there's a market for that. And again, if we take a look at the median, that means there's just as many above as there are below. What it's saying to us is that the prices of homes are not getting away from us. So don't be expecting any big settlement in numbers, meaning any reduction in numbers. We've already been through that, at least speculatively looking forward. We should be on a very stable, soluble market. So we look at average days on market. We're down to 66. That's a little concerning. We need to be closer to the 70. And then, of course, our list price to sale price retention is what was the difference between the list price and the sale price at the time the seller accepted the offer. And so 97.8 is our historic number. This week we're at 97.88, right on that number. That's a good sign. Last week we were at 97.25. If it's higher than 97.8, sellers aren't giving away anything. If they're not discounting their price. This has nothing to do with concessions yet. And of course, if it goes below this, that means they have to give away the farm in order to make the buyers stay in the market. So those are the numbers for this week. And we should have the month-end numbers, I would imagine, by midweek or the end of this week, worst case next Monday.
All right. You can always look for those end-of-the-month numbers on your Facebook groups. All right. Matt Baker.
All right.
Let's bring you into the conversation, see how interest rates are going.
Let's do this. It's an Easter miracle. Look at that. Rates are in the threes, guys. What do you think? All right, just kidding. April Fools. I had to do it. I just had to do it. You guys were all so eager to get rates in the threes, and I'm sorry to bust your bubble there, but they did maintain stationary over week.
I'm having all of my clients call you.
Yeah.
I want my three.
You want my three. I want my three. 7% is sort of where we're falling right now, and just the big economic news last week was the personal consumption expenditure, and that is the Fed's favorite inflation measure. We talk about CPI, which is the consumer price index, but the PCE is their favorite one, and you can see that it's trended. Like, look at the core; it is down. It's just not as down as they want. And when you look back, because the way in the PCE number and even the other inflation gauges, they total up month over month, and that's how you get 2.8%. And so they can look back and go, there's still some high numbers there that are going to be replaced, but not high enough, right? So the thinking here is that the inflation is going to be a little bit stickier. It's going to be harder for it to get much closer to that 2% target that the Fed wants. Well, that doesn't sound very good, right? And that's what the market is reacting to a little bit this morning. The market was closed on Friday because of the Easter holiday, but I think the key here to take away is that they're starting to shift, and the Fed even made commentary on Friday, the Fed Chairman Powell, about jobs. So remember, it's a dual mandate, inflation and jobs. And so just because inflation's not going down, now it's better than 9, okay? So 2.8 is not bad. It's just not the target, but it's okay because the jobs number has been lagging, and that is starting to show some real signs of weakness. So I think that's the kind of the big takeaway here, is that don't fret this number. The reality is, if the jobs numbers continue to be weak, that come June, there is a possibility for a rate hike. And the Fed chairman said on Friday that he still is believing that 3 target of 3 rate drops. So I think that was big news, even though the market is not reacting so well this morning, but nevertheless. Now, I did throw in this. I really feel like this next phase of buyer relationships with clients and my relationship with buyers as well is all about the art of the presentation. And I just wanted to highlight 2 things. And I went to a modern mortgage and real estate summit last week and got a couple of sort of what I think are good nuggets that maybe can provide you some value. Number 1 is needs, right? We have to learn how to ask the right questions to determine what the client's true needs are, what their motivations are. Now, I would tell you that a phone call is great, but Zoom is better, face-to-face is even better, because you're going to get that empathy, right? You're going to be able to connect. And a great book, Exactly What to Say. There's a real estate version of this. I've talked about this before. I actually became Exactly What to Say certified on what questions can you pose to help sort of reshift or retrain the conversation. What's your experience buying a home and how important is it? How certain are you? These are key phrases that you can put into action that's going to help. And then secondarily, buyers doing a need profile where you're really getting into their personal life as much as you may not want to. Get out of the transaction and get into the humanity of who they are and what motivates them. I had a call Zoom. I did Zoom because I'm trying to live, practice what I preach. I did a Zoom this weekend with a client. I wouldn't have asked these questions if I wasn't face to face with them. There's just something about having looking at someone's face. But the woman had 4 kids, 1 on the way, all under 6 years old. She's in an apartment. She needs to buy. I'm learning her motivation. And so I'm now being able to put that into a plan, and then I can remind her about what the motivation, what her true goals are, so we keep her on track. And then it always comes down to the process. I hope everybody is doing a buyer presentation, with slides or with, there's a ton of tools out there that you can use, but a good way to do, to build trust is by doing a professional sort of buyer's presentation. You want to get paid like a professional, you need to have a professional buyer's presentation. You need to figure out what their buying power is on the max side. And then I love this phrase, I heard it this past week, the comfort zone, right? Like you need to, as much as a buyer may not be willing to go to their max, but they do want to give you what their comfort zone is. And then as a lender involvement, that should be my key to then jump in and go, well, hey, I like a $3,000 payment, but I'm comfortable in a $2,500 payment. Well, those are good things that you can know to tweak your presentation when you're describing data, when you're walking through. And you got to remember, they want to look at houses, yes, and they want to, that's their motivation to talk to you, but at the same time, they want data. They want to know. So let's build a presentation that's quickly customizable, and then of course sell with pictures. And I think that's a real key thing. And I would even put things in here like this. I can co-brand this with you. This is the payment chart. It was in last week. I got a few people that wanted it, so I put it back in. If you need something like this, because this I think is a quick cheat sheet tool to be able to guide them on where they want to go. And then, of course, this next Wednesday, April 10th, we're doing the Pulse, which is economy, housing, and rates. And then, as always, you can take a picture of that QR code and connect with me anytime.
All right. Appreciate it, Matt.
Yep.
Great stuff, as always. All right. Let's jump into our 3-pack. Hopefully, I got the right 3-pack. Now, in full disclosure, I created this 3-pack about a month ago. And we've had just different things pop up. And with the NAR settlement proposal, so I haven't looked at this in about a month.
Great. There's nothing that's impacted that, is there?
Yeah. All right, so this is, so as we get into this, these are some of the things that I do before I send an offer to a listing agent. And now with, us, as Matt was talking about, having that buyer presentation, this is part of when I sit down with a buyer and I talk about my negotiations and my process. A lot of this stuff that I'm going to present is things that I would share with a buyer so that they understand really, because buyers really don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. Absolutely. And especially now where some buyers are going to be asked to pay for their representation, you're obviously going to have to provide value. So nothing's more frustrating as a listing agent when you have a listing, goes on the market, and an agent just sends over an offer. No pretext, no anything. And typically when I get those, I know it's going to be a lowball offer. But when I have a house that we're going to submit an offer on, these are some of the things that I do. I want to do, before I ever send over the offer, I want to do some homework on the agent and the seller. I want to know, as far as the agent, how long they've been in the business. What kind of agent am I going to be going up against when it comes down to negotiations? Are they a new agent or are they a seasoned agent? That's going to impact my conversation with them and how I handle them. Are they part of a team? What's their experience level? And I also want to do a little homework on the seller as well. Know how long they've owned the house for. You have to know what they paid for the house. You have to have somewhat of an understanding of what you might think their equity position is. Submitting an offer to a seller that is upside down is different than submitting an offer to a seller that's got $200,000 worth of equity and they've owned the home for 5 years. So I like to know that. I do like to, before I send an offer, I want to talk to the agent, and you can't always get the agent on the phone. So I always send this text. Basically, I have a client that is interested in submitting an offer on your property at such and such. I just have some clarifying questions when you have a minute. I typically always get that agent to call back. I need to have a conversation. I need to start building that rapport. I need to start building that relationship with that listing agent. And if they do, answer, obviously introduce yourself. And then you want to know, when you do get on the phone, what are some of the specific needs that seller might have and such they're looking for, know what type of escrow period that they're looking for. I can't tell you how many times, Todd, in the last 12 months, I always ask about post-possession. Is your seller looking for a post-possession scenario? And so many times the listing agent says, yeah, we just didn't put it in the MLS. And now all of a sudden our offer becomes a lot more appealing, because if my buyer's got to be okay with post-possession. And then I want to know, are you sitting on any offers right now?
Let's face it, you can't. Nope, still off.
I'm not sure.
Just
Tap the front. Yeah, talk now. Yeah.
testing 1, 2.
Yeah.
It's a smaller part here. Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know how you can craft an offer without having the conversation with the seller about certain topics. And again, you could be thinking most of the time you're trying to just meet your buyer's needs. But when you go into the negotiation phase, before you write the offer, you have to understand what you think that might be. And so I think it's incredible to be able to have a conversation with the listing agent so that you can identify, to your point, that one thing they may be interested in that trumps all the other aspects of the transaction. If you can focus on that and drive that and bring that home, then it basically presets. It allows you to craft your offer in such a manner that ultimately is going to be the path of least resistance.
And I'm also trying to eliminate counteroffers.
Of course,
If I can get enough this information up front, and we have some sort of verbal arrangement, because obviously with counteroffers, more time lapses, and it's okay to ask if they're sitting on. Here's the other thing: if they're sitting on other offers, you can ask the agent of, okay, what is the best offer that you're sitting on right now? If I submit X amount, how does that offer look? And I know a lot of agents will come back and say, well, that's not fair to the other agents and the other offers.
Who cares about being fair?
Bro, I hear this all the time, and I have to have this discussion. My fiduciary, as a listing agent, my fiduciary responsibility is to my client to get them the most amount of money.
Yeah.
This is not about fairness. No. All right. So if there are existing offers, are there any offers at full price? Are there any offers above full price? And I'll ask, where do we need to be to get this done? My client is strong. And again, some agents, they do push back, especially the agents that have been around this business for 20, 30 years. They do live under this sense of, that's not fair. I think it's not fair to your client not to get them the most amount of money possible on the house. Totally. And I'll ask the pointed questions. Okay, so if I send you an offer if they won't be fully transparent about what kind of offers that they're sitting on, If I send you an offer at this price, will that number get it done? I'm not sure. Okay, what about this number? And really kind of get that feedback from that agent. And again, if you do get pushback, I try to explain in a very nice and cordial way that the goal is to get their client the best offer possible. Again, we owe no fiduciary responsibilities to other agents. Our fiduciary responsibility is to our clients.
Yeah, and I think, within light of you having done this so many weeks ago, and what's going on in the marketplace today, there's new questions. So I kind of was thinking afterwards, we left something out in number one. And what we left out is the fact that we have to ask now, are you offering a cooperating broker compensation? Mm-hmm. And so that's paramount to the transaction. And again, but now to number two, the existence of offers. In the listing contract as it exists today, it says, do you want me to disclose the existence of offers? Or are you telling me not to disclose the existence of offers? They don't have to disclose the existence of offers, but they're not obligated to if you don't ask. So the whole key is paramount upon you asking. You have to say, do you have offers on your property now? Now, when it comes down to saying, what are they? Or, is there one that you're leaning towards and what does it include? And they can tell you there's no confidential information on that listing contract, on that offer they've received, other than the client's name, all of the information, closing date, down payment, earnest money, sale price, all of that's negotiable, and all of it's non-confidential.
Yeah, and if you are the listing agent, you obviously want to get permission in writing. But I can tell you right now, if you're going to submit an offer on one of my listings, I'm an open book.
Oh yeah,
I'm going to tell you everything. I'm going to tell you everything that we are sitting on because again, I represent my seller, and I want to get them the most
shopping
amount
of offers is considered a client fiduciary service if they've given you the ability to do it.
Number three, have your lender call. We say this all the time, but I am amazed on how many or the lack of calls that I get from the buyers and lenders on my listings. Your lender needs to call. So what I do when we submit an offer, I will reach out to my lender and I'll send them a copy of the listing so that they know a little bit about the property. I'll give them the phone number of the listing agent. I'll let them know any details of the conversations that I've had with the listing agent, and I want my lender to call. And it's bizarre. I have found that listing agents will disclose more information to the lender about the seller than they will to the buyer's agent. Yep. And the next thing you know, my lender's calling me and saying, okay, this is the offer that they're sitting on. This is where we have to be. And I just did this 2 weeks for a client. We were up against a lot of offers, and I had, Justin call, and Justin made the case, and that agent called and said, man, I'm so glad your lender called. That was a great conversation. And then I couldn't believe the information she let Justin know. And boom, we got the deal done.
Yeah, remember, Justin doesn't have any fiduciary to anybody other than to his borrower. So the reality is anything that listing agent, by mistake, without permission, discloses to him because they maybe feel that it's a neutral party or something, all that information is fair game to come back to the buyer. So absolutely. But here's something, and I got to tell this story real quick. But so when we were in a very, very high intense multiple offer market, and my wife has always had Justin call the listing agent and have a conversation about what the buyer's needs and or what's going on in the buyer, because pre-quals really, two can look alike, but that doesn't mean the situations are the same. So anyway, he called the listing agent, and what he told them, and Lynn and I didn't even remember this, we were on a previous transaction with this buyer, and it fell out during escrow. And so during that time, up until the time it fell out, that buyer had taken care of all of the prior to doc conditions that were necessary to have been met. And so when that deal fell out, those things don't fall out. They're just that much farther ahead on the next purchase. So Justin told them all the prior to doc things are done. The only thing we're waiting on is your property to appraise. So, I mean, if you think about it, now the onus is now on the seller. The buyer's ready. Buyer's approved. So they took our deal, which was $10,000, or her deal, which was $10,000 less, because everything else was very similar, because they felt confident and they knew that the buyer was a better buyer, better opportunity.
Yeah. So have your lender call.
Gotta call.
And if your lender won't call,
Gotta call.
get a new lender.
Yeah, change lender.
So I just want to quickly pine in with the changes in the industry over the last couple of weeks. After you did this write-up, this 3-pack, one thing changed on this 3-pack. One question changed. You should already be reaching out and having a conversation with the listing agent. That should be something that buyers are doing before the offer is presented. Today, this morning, a few hours ago, we saw a top team leader at a different company post that state of real estate is in a state of alarm. You should be worried about how to do real estate. This 3-pack is completely up to date except for one additional question being asked. There's a lot of sensationalism happening right now, everybody.
It's horrible.
It's not as bad as it's being portrayed. No. You just need to be comfortable having conversations with people.
So then going back to my earlier point, we are into, to Matt's point, you need to create, and we talked about it last week, you're going to have to create some sort of buyer presentation.
Yeah, 100%.
And in my buyer presentation, I focus a lot on what we do to negotiate and why. And I always tell my clients, listen, you don't need to like me, but you want me.
Yeah.
You know, you want me negotiating on your behalf. And so this is part what you're seeing here are things that I share with my buyers. I want them to understand that it's simply more than just putting words and numbers on a piece of paper. So
Boom. All right. Definitely.
That's a 3-pack. All righty. I'm really, really excited about this. I just, I see it all the time. I see posts on our Facebook groups looking for an accountant, looking for a tax strategist. And in full disclosure, Cindy Dillard is my personal accountant, and I should say her entire team. And this is part of the advantage of Cindy's company. She's got an entire team of tax strategists and assistants that really get things done. And I'm telling you, if you have investors, or you are investing in real estate, or you are producing in real estate, having the right tax strategist is paramount. It's not always who is the cheapest, it's who is going to save you the most and give you the greatest strategy. So, Cindy, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
All right, so let's jump into it. I didn't really get a big chance to take a look at everything that you got on your slides, so it's going to be a surprise for me. But I did see one of them, and this is probably the number one question we get from real estate agents: is when do I or when should I consider setting up a PLLC or a PC? And let's maybe backtrack and go into what that is specifically. What are some of the benefits of it, and at what income level, as far as commissions go, at what income level does an agent need to go? Okay, I need to start thinking about getting a PLLC set up.
You bet. So, the income level is at about $50,000. $50,000 is when it can make a difference in how we file your taxes. Typically, up to $50,000. It just is what it is, and you're going to file as a sole proprietor.
This is why I'm not an accountant. I've been telling everybody it's about 35, so I got to make some phone calls after this.
Well, $50,000 covers, it would be that amount that would cover a fee to get you to an S Corp, or if we were going to change how we were going to file you. Part of the problem is with most real estate agents is they don't realize it needs to be a PLLC. So I don't know if it's the Board of Realtors or who it is that they talk to, but oftentimes I have a client they listen to a seminar and then they go set up Homes by Cindy, LLC. Okay, that doesn't cut it with as a real estate agent. You've got to be a PLLC, and a PLLC is your name. It's Cindy Dillard PLLC. That's something I want to be really clear about. And yes, you need to get a tax ID number. That tax ID number allows us to file a separate tax return. And the more you can separate your personal and your business taxes, the better off you're going to be down the road. And what I do with our clients is we just go through a list, a checklist. These are the things that I want you to run through your business bank account. You've probably heard it. They don't want you to pierce the corporate veil. That's when you commingle your funds. I tend to, I get clients all the time that they get scared about that. And here I am, a tax professional, and I get to the register and I don't know which credit card to use, and I use the wrong one, and then I have to have my bookkeeper change it. So also realize the IRS realizes we're human beings. There's still going to be things, but for the most part, they want you to run business expenses.
That's one of the nicest things I've heard anyone ever say about the IRS.
Well, I guess you're not playing as well as Cindy is, are you?
They don't like me over there.
Yeah. Sorry, Cindy. Go ahead.
That's okay. So, yes, be very clear and very intentional about what you're running through the business and what you're not running through the business. Dry clean is not deductible. Don't pay your mortgage out of your business account. That's a personal expense. I teach our clients how to claim your home office and how to pay your kids and how to do all that, so that we can stay within the guidelines of what is legally tax deductible.
All right. So, and I think one of the things also want to be clear, you did mention that your PLLC has to be your name. So I recommend just going by the name that's on your real estate license.
Yes.
And then from our side of things here at West USA or at your brokerage, then you have to submit that to the Department of Real Estate. The Department of Real Estate has to accept that and say, okay, you are now, Cindy Dillard, PLLC. Don't put that on your business cards. Don't put that on your yard signs.
Right.
But then once you get the acceptance from the Department of Real Estate, then that goes to your broker or your brokerage. And then from there, the brokerage now can pay, the check can be made payable to your PLLC rather than you.
Actually, the broker has to sign the PLLC form that you will submit to get your license.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. See, that's even stuff I didn't know, but I knew there was some form of...
Just one more piece.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then from there, you just get an EIN number, and then you go down and open up a checking account. You're going to have an EIN number. You may or may not, depending on your bank, have to have some sort of articles of organization. And then once you have that, then your brokerage now cuts the check to your PLLC. That check goes into your PLLC, and then your PLLC is now paying expenses and then
Yes.
paying you as an individual.
Yes.
How does that
Yes.
work?
So, in the beginning, as you're getting the transition, depending on when it is that time of year, so that's a really good question that we get. Well, how do I pay myself? You're going to take the money that you need to live on, that you've typically lived on, and do it as a distribution or an owner's draw. Then, at the point that we need to have you on a W-2, so I think you guys have probably heard the IRS says, any S corp, they want to see a payroll to the owner. Well, they want to see a payroll to the owner once you're a certain profit. So if our profit is $50,000, so let's back up. I need you to be a PLLC when your income is $50,000. The IRS wants to see a W-2 from your PLLC to you when your profit is at $50,000. Right? And then what they talk about is what's a reasonable wage for yourself. And so typically it runs 50-50, 60-40. So if I'm a $100,000 profit, I want to see a W-2 for at least $50,000 or $60,000 to yourself from your PLLC. Even though your PLLC is your name, from your PLLC to your personal name, a W-2.
All right. So again, I haven't seen the slides yet. So if you have it in a further slide, then we'll wait till we get there. But I remember you came to our team meeting like 3 or 4 years ago, and you started talking about this pay your kids thing. And I'm going, that's BS. There's no way that this crazy lady is right. And then I went back and I started researching it. I'm like, holy crap. One of the best tools out there. So is that in a future slide?
Yeah, well, it's under the missed deductions
Okay,
that I
then,
see.
then we'll get there. So now I have a cliffhanger out there for everybody. Okay, so let's talk about specific tax deductions.
And these would come out of the PLLC business bank account. Anything professional development. your license fees and association fees, your marketing and advertising, any technology expenses. Okay, so realize the IRS they haven't updated their tax forms to say, oh, Google AdWords or apps. There's no category for any apps that I have on my phone that I'm using for business, right? So you've got to think about, where can I put this deduction that doesn't have a specific category? And I get that all the time. I get clients say, well, I was trying to get my documents to you, but I just have no idea what category to put these things in. I'm limited. Every tax professional is limited on your categories. So you have to think about it. Are they going to follow under marketing or advertising? Are they going to file under legal and professional? See, your professional development and license and association fees are probably going to file under legal and professional. So don't get hung up on the category. Think about it and think about, what am I doing and where can I put this that would apply to what the IRS can recognize, right?
Yeah, and that's why like a lot with my taxes, just a lot of it just gets thrown under marketing and advertising because there's so many different varieties. And when I take clients golfing, or I take them out to dinner, or I do a housewarming party, it's advertising because it's marketing and advertising because
You're
it's really
trying to
what
get
I'm
more
doing.
business,
Trying to
yes.
get more business.
Yes.
All right. Good stuff. All right. So most missed tax deductions. That's
Yeah, this is on every tax return. If I look at a tax return and I can see if you've done the Augusta rule or paying your kids. So let's talk about those. So the Augusta rule. The IRS said that if you rent your home out for 14 days or less in a year, you don't have to claim the income. So I want to see on every tax return, your business, your PLLC, pay you for rent. Yes, you're going to sign a lease agreement, and I want to see the money transfer or a check written. I always say a check written. They're like, well, we don't have checks. Okay, transfer still works, but then you categorize that as rent. So think about, we just had this, the Super Bowl here a year ago. Every one of my clients should have had the Augusta rule on theirs that they rented the week during the Super Bowl, right? That's when the rents were the highest. Now, you are going to do fair market rents in your area. What is it for 14 days in that area? But you're also going to look to see, when can I do this at its most expensive time of the year, right? Paying your kids. Excuse me. So the IRS said you can pay your kids $13,900 tax-free a year.
so that went up. It used to
It
be
did.
12.
So
It went.
that was-
It was 12.5.
And every year it goes up. So last year for 23, it was 13.9. Yes, they want to see the checks written to the children, the money go into their account. I have my kids keep a time card so that we can just support. Now, what's been really fun is I have some clients that have 7-year-olds, so it's in the 7-year-old's writing. They keep this time card. They emptied out the company trash and they cleaned out the company car now. So the IRS says their kids age 7 to 17. Now, I have a real estate agent. Her kids are little, but she did open house and she invited other moms of kids their age. Well, I would still use that. They're not 7, but she actually used the kids in their advertising. They're in all the pictures, right? That's the biggest one, pay your kids. Business use of the home, that's another one. I see so many times I work from home, but I also have an office. How do I do that? And you can let me do that. We can do it monthly, either reimburse yourself for business use of the home, or you can do it at the end of the year. And I like to see those checks written or cut rather than just do a journal entry. So a journal entry would be, I really didn't do it. I paid everything personally, but I still want to take the deduction. That's a journal entry. Buying or leasing a vehicle. So let's talk about that.
Yeah,
So
it's a big one.
which one is better? I have my clients keep track of everything. Then I can decide at tax time. Now, so let's say I'm a real estate agent and all of a sudden I have just a phenomenal year. I have that $1 million buyer that just sent me over the top of what I had been planning for. Well, but she also was going to buy a vehicle. So buying, when I have a big year, if I have a big car that's over 6,000 pounds, is going to be better than if I lease it. Now, if I'm in a retirement community and I only sell to my retirement, I'm never going to have you buy that car. I'm going to have you lease it because that's a better deduction for what I'm going to take in the year if I'm on my fixed mileage, right? So you have to look at both to see what matters. And yes, I want you to keep track of everything. Some of the things people miss are, well, they pay $29 for that car wash every month. I missed that. Their insurance, they finance the car, so it'd be the interest on that car. Everything to do with that vehicle is now a potential deduction. And as soon as I see a client owes and I see their auto is like $150, it's like, okay, well, we need to talk about that, especially as a real estate agent in Arizona. You know, I'm from Idaho. You wouldn't drive 30 miles to do anything. Here we drive it 3 times a day, right? So that one's always a big one. And then travel. So the IRS said, travel for business and then make it a vacation. What do I have to do that? How many hours do I have to work on Friday and on Monday to make that whole weekend deductible? What do I have to do if I want to take a whole week off? And how do I deduct that? What are my requirements by the IRS that I have to do to be able to do that? You know, Tom Wilwright, he's my mentor, and he said the question isn't, is it deductible? The question is, how do I make it deductible?
Yeah.
What do I have to do that? So if you're a lazy real estate agent and you don't want to deduct it, that's fine. I don't care. But is it worth putting in a little bit extra work, sending a few extra emails to go on that vacation, conduct some business to be able to write it off? I think so. You know, and really quick, one thing I didn't put on here, the IRS talks about they want you to buy a property in a place you like to visit. Even if I have a property manager at the cabin that I purchased in Idaho, they're going to let me go to Idaho and keep checking on that as much as I want through the year. Well, why wouldn't I do that? I get to go home, right? I get to see my mom, and I'm going to check on all my properties. So that's just another tidbit.
Now, I'm afraid to ask too many questions or provide any examples in case I get audited, and this is recorded.
Yes.
So I'm not saying what I've done or what I haven't
Right.
done.
So a friend of yours did something, right?
I'm asking for a friend.
I'm asking for a friend. So, so I do. There is not a trip, a vacation or whatever. There's not a trip that I go on that I legitimately am not working. So I don't have any issues with that. However, I'm also through, and I do everything through my business credit card, rack miles, and then I have my PLLC, you know, pay that off and everything like that. But on this business trip, sometimes I'm taking my family and I'm buying them airline tickets. And then I might be doing my personal shopping. I mean, I get all my clothes when I'm on a business trip, and is buying tickets for the rest of my family. Are those expenses deductible, or is it just me?
So initially, it's just you, unless we're paying the kids and we're having our family work with us in the business, right? So sometimes when I get those numbers, and I tell you to keep track of all of it. So this is a great situation where I want you to keep track of everything. You took your family on this trip. I want the PLLC to pay for it. I might not take it all 100%.
Okay, gotcha.
But that gives me the ability to go in and see how much. Just like cell phones or internet. Okay, we have the family plan. Are we going to take everybody on that? Am I going to take that whole amount on that phone bill? No, I typically don't. Now, if I get the phone bill and it's like $230, chances are you're not giving me the whole phone bill, right? Because we don't have home phones anymore. Everybody's on a cell phone. So I'm going to ask for the whole phone bill so I can take the percentage then. So I want you to give me everything. That gives me more leverage for your tax return if I have everything. Then I can go in and I can adjust it.
All right, good. All right, I think I'm on. Well, first of all, I mean, I say that, but you know, there's nothing I do without conferring with you.
Right.
So,
Right. Yep.
all right, the do's and don'ts, some do's and don'ts.
Okay, track your income expenses. Now, for real estate agents, you get a 1099, so we're not going to have an issue. Now, the year that you switch to a PLLC, and if you're being taxed as an S corp, you're not going to get a 1099. You have to claim all your income. I get this every day, and I just had somebody, I just got the numbers, and they said, yep, that's it. That's all the 1099s I got. Okay, I don't want to know the 1099s. I want to know all your income. Keep track of your income. I don't care what your 1099 says. Let's make sure at least they're close. If not, make sure you've claimed everything. Track your auto expenses. So everything's generated from your miles. What are the miles? And Mile IQ It's a really good tracker. If I put down that I've gone to the office and it's for business, every time I go to the office, it'll track it for business. So it's a really great tool to use. The don'ts, disregard tax planning. So I've changed the model of my business because I had too many people not reaching out and doing tax planning. So the beauty is right now, with this being tax season, it's an easy tax season because I did planning for almost 90% of my clients last year. And I tell them, we're not talking during tax season unless I get in there and I'm doing your return and it doesn't match the tax planning. Something happened. You either closed a deal and you forgot to tell me, something happened. And then the other thing I see is I have a lot of realtors that their husbands have a handyman business or construction business, and then they 1099 their spouse. Okay, don't ever 1099 your spouse. If you have other businesses and you have partnerships, don't 1099 yourself. Let me just keep saying that. Do not 1099 yourself or your spouse. It just creates this mess inside your tax return of the other income. Want me to just move on this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so back to Tom Wheelwright. So he's been my mentor for, 20 years. And he teaches in this book how to turn your rental property into a business. And how do I make those things tax deductible?
All right, and so so this will just be a good segue. Especially as I said from the very beginning, if you are working with investors or you are a real estate agent wanting to invest in real estate, definitely highly recommend this book. There are so many, I've had my share of accountants over the years. I've never been able to take advantage. And that's the thing you always teach us, Cindy. It's, the IRS aren't the bad guys. We shouldn't get stressed out about the IRS. They've provided paths for us to be able to keep more of our money.
Yes. And Tom Wheelwright is a big proponent of that. He says they want to be your friend. They want to be in business with you. So how to make it a business? So you create a holding company. A holding company is an LLC and it's member managed. So that's a key. And I do want you to talk to your attorney about this and have them help you set it up. But then each property you own is going to hold its own LLC. The member is going to be your holding company, and you are going to be your manager. You or your spouse are going to be your manager. That means I can be on the checking accounts. Now, what this does is this provides that if I have 3 rental properties, I only have to have 1 business checking account. I don't have to have 3. So I have a client, he has 28 properties, and he has a checking account for 28 properties. And that's just almost a nightmare to navigate through because let's say he buys something, like what would it be? Something that can go between properties. Yes, and it's the same landscaper for each, but he knows that if he buys this turf for this one, it can be for 3 more, right? Something like that. So that might be a holding company expense and not directly to each property.
Gotcha.
So, but this is for your asset protection, but also tax returns. So I'd file the holding company as a partnership, and then each of your properties go under there. Just like on your personal return, it's filed on a Schedule E, which is rental property. It's the same thing here. So in this holding company, it's a partnership, and then it gets filed on what looks just like a Schedule E.
So the tenant in Property One LLC here pays Holding Company LLC the monthly rent to them. Where do they pay that rent?
So the rent can go. It can have the Property 1, Property 2, Property 3. It can have that name on it, but it's all going to be deposited in the Holding Company LLC.
Okay.
And the reason the bank will do that is the owner
Is the member manager?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, and I totally understand. I know a lot of people are just their minds are like, whoa.
Yeah,
And
what's
so
this step?
at the end of this, we're going to have Cindy's information. But this is, I mean, again, if you have rental properties, or you're thinking about getting rental properties, you have clients. These are the things that they need or you need to consider.
And then one of the new phrases out that has been around for the last couple of years is cost segregations, and it can save you a ton of money on your taxes in the year you buy the property. But I do want you to hire a professional. It's not a DIYer.
No,
Get a professional to do that.
and it's a couple grand.
It is, and you can deduct their fee. What it does is in a residential, we take purchase of the property over 27 and a half years. If it's commercial, it's over 39. So what that's going to do is break down that property so I can take more in the year I purchased instead of having to take it over 27 and a half years. Or, example, if I put a new roof on, I might have to take that over 15 years, right? Well, if you spend 10 grand over 15 years isn't very much. It doesn't do anything for my tax return, right? This really helps you get a boost in your tax return and really helps you maximize your deductions. Yeah, and it's very popular right now. So, for example, a single-family residence of $567,000 is the purchase price. The normal depreciation would be $16,000 a year. Once the assets are moved to a shorter depreciable life, it's $148,000. So we're going to write off about $32,000 of your taxes on that kind of a property. So I will tell you, if you're my client, I'm going to say you need to do a cost segregation.
And it has to be, you have to get it the year you buy the property.
Well, so yes, but I'm going to also say that I might be wrong on that, only because I had a client.
And I'm asking for a friend because I got a couple
Yes.
properties I need to do this on.
So I have a client that just brought me a cost segregation, and they brought their property in 21, and I haven't yet looked at it, but I don't know that that's accurate, and I don't know that answer, so I need to find that out. Okay, so cost segregation works on long-term properties. And yes, it still happens. I still have clients that buy a property, do a cost segregation, and the next year they're like, gosh, I had a great deal, so I sold it. Well, you just recapture all of that depreciation. So clients say, well, Cindy, do magic. Okay, it's not magic. Like, it just is. You put the right things in place, and then unfortunately, you sold it. So now all that magic you thought I did, I have to bring back.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, and I think, and then of course, going back to cost segregation analysis. It is because I do, we do a lot of teaching and a lot of classes for our agents on real estate wealth management, and we find that the cost segregation analysis is very few agents that we come across know what it is. Because it's something that is, for whatever reason, is not really ever talked about in our industry or whatever the case is. And I just would implore and recommend every single agent, if you're working with investors, get knee deep into them and understand them, because you are going to bring some tremendous value. And now that I've told you, and if you don't do it, you're failing in your fiduciary responsibilities to your clients. We got to go.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay.
So then let's get into 1031 tax exchanges real quick.
So let's say we sold that property, I did a cost segregation on it, and now I have to recapture everything. If I 1031 it, I can defer those capital gains. Yeah. And that's another great way. And yes, you need a professional, but also you need to know the rules of the 1031. I had a client come in, they did a 1031. They did it on a short-term rental, and those you cannot do a 1031 on. I mean, there is nowhere even on this tax return to put that it was
Short.
Yeah. So don't do it on short-term rentals.
All right. So I want to end with a story. And this is just, for our team, we have an incredible estate attorney. And obviously, you're our incredible tax strategist, and we've somehow been able to bring everybody together and have our have our clients working with everybody on our team. And so, we had a client, and we have a client, and we've been telling them, they want to buy a new home. Keep your home. Keep your home. Keep your home. And they're so caught up in negative cash flow. And which a lot of investors are. Oh, well, I don't want to buy this house because I'm going to be out of pocket $200 a month and so forth. And we have that discussion. Okay, so you put $200 into your 401k. How much of a return are you going to get? If I put $200 into a $450,000 house, it's going to appreciate over 5%. But it was really interesting. So they were actually in a situation where if they were going to hold on to their house, they're going to be out of pocket $1,000 a month. Okay, negative cash flow $1,000 a month. Okay, for most investors, just DOA, dead on arrival. So we picked you up. We picked you up. We didn't pick you up. We picked up the phone and called you, and because you are this investor's accountant as well, and said, okay, if we're in the situation we're going to be negative $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, you know the finances and the accounting situation of our client. Is it a possible or is it a positive thing because they have enough room to absorb the $12,000 a year for write-offs? And because we all work together, you knew the answer. And so now all of a sudden, they're out of pocket $1,000 a month, but at the end of the year, it's a write-off, and now they get to hang on to their house and let it appreciate more.
Right, yes.
So look at everything as a year-end decision, not necessarily as the one that's right in front of you. That's going to contribute positively or negatively to that year-end, but that's the benefit of having you to have that conversation.
Correct, thank you, yes.
All right, so we've got your phone number, we've got your email up here. What is the process? I reach out to your office. Walk me through the process.
So one of my employees, one of my staff, one of my team members, they email you my pricing and how we work. We work on a monthly contract, and if I'm going to do your back year, you're going to owe for the back year, but we're going to get you on the monthly contract for that next year. And I want to hear from you, and I'll tell you. I want to hear when your income's changed by $25,000, even if it's just a quick email. I'm big on planning. If you just have a quick question, email me. I do not limit emails. I want to hear from you. I want to know what's going on. I don't want to see on Facebook that you had a child and then you moved and bought a house. Like, that's all great, but the fact that I'm trying to remember it and you're not, especially when people have a baby January of 23, they forget that baby's a year old. Like, we're into the next tax season. I'm like, I think we are missing the kids on here. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you as much as possible, just so that I know that we're right where we need to be. If everything has stayed the same, I don't need to hear from you, right? But the key is get in with me, talk to me. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah, and I would say when we first started with you, I was the monthly retainers, what I like to refer to, was a little bit different. I'm used to just paying for my filing at the end of the year, but man, it is the best. It's the best thing out there because now I feel like I can. I can reach out to you and I can reach out to you when I have questions, because it's often that you get that call from me and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking about doing, and what are your thoughts? So, Cindy, thank you so much. I know you have family in town, so I appreciate you pulling away to spend a little bit of time with us. There's our information on the screen. Leave you with the quote of the day: the strongest principle of growth lies in the human choice. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Go out and sell a home.